Welcome back. Later in the Driven 100, we test the capacity of our mini MPVs with an oversized package. But first, spy footage and a driven scoop.
Just another prototype car caught track testing in Germany? Hardly. These exclusive pictures reveal a vehicle which is at the centre of a crisis in UK manufacturing. Yes, this is the new Vauxhall Vectra. It was going to be built in Luton, but the decision to move it abroad signalled the end of car making at the factory. Here it's being fine-tuned for an all-out assault on the Ford Mondeo in 2002, and expectations are high about its handling and performance. It's also going to look pretty sharp too, as our computer-generated picture shows. So will it wear a Vauxhall or an Opel badge? We'll just have to wait and see.
I knew I recognised this car. It was one of these, a Volvo S60 T5 that me and a bunch of journalists smashed the British 24-hour land speed record at the back end of the last series. Now normally you'd have to drag me kicking and screaming to get back into a car like this that I spent most of the night driving around in circles at 150 mile an hour. But with this motor, do you know what? I don't mind. Oh, it's like coming home to a nice cosy Cotswold cottage. In fact, I'm going to throw a couple more logs on the fire. Heated seats. I love them, and that's the thing about this car, it's so comfortable in here, and it has to be, because for this car to succeed, it has to be very special indeed. Here's why Volvo have launched the S60 into the most competitive class there is, the compact executive car bracket, dominated by the BMW 3 Series and the Mercedes C-Class. To survive in this company, you have to be a brilliant all-rounder, so will the Volvo be king of the jungle? Well, first impressions are excellent, making decent interiors seem to be a lost art in the 80s and 90s, but it looks like Volvo are dragging us back out the dark ages. To take on the Germans and beat them, you have to have a pretty specced up interior, and the S60 is no exception, with some impressive kit as standard. You get a multi-function steering wheel, you get air conditioning and an 8-speaker CD player, and on the SE model like this, you get 9, count them. Not enough to shake your fillings out, there's always a 13-speaker option too. Right, that's enough of that, you make me look silly. That's how hard Volvo have tried to shake off their conservative image. And just look at the body shape, it's not square at all, it's curvy. But the S60 is a front-wheel drive car, so it suffers from vague steering and a slightly reduced turning circle. For that reason, driving purists won't touch it. Volvo haven't forgotten that they built their reputation on safety, and there are more airbags than a bouncy castle in this car. It gets to 60 in around 7 seconds and has very refined motorway manners. Volvo have made a car that excels in every department. But will it sell against the likes of BMW and Mercedes? Well, that's up to you. The car buying public, badge snobs and rear-wheel drive purists may turn their noses up, but many of us would be happy to drive this stylish Swedish all-rounder. And let's face it, you do get a lot of car for your money.
For more information on the S60, log on to our website at 4car.co.uk. Plus, from midnight tonight, get the inside story on its cousin, the new Jaguar X-Type. Now, back to the Driven 100.
These three cars may have plenty of seating room, but what about storage? Well, to pack anything bigger than a couple of cases, you've got to lose some seats. The forward-looking Muitipla seats 6 across 2 rows. The front and rear central seats can be folded down and used as tables. The back row can easily be removed to leave a massive flat loading area of 1.2 metres in length and 1 metre in width. The PT Cruiser is all hot rod on the outside, but is it any cop on the inside? There's a 5-position rear shelf which we found completely useless.
There are 5 seats, the rear ones come out, although you will need a bit of extra help. It's only slightly more flexible than a hatchback, with a flat loading space that's about as deep as a Muitipla, but not quite as high or as wide. The Nissan Almera Tino has more seating arrangements than you can shake a stick at. All 5 seats recline, and yet again the rear ones can come out. The rear central seat folds down into a table with ubiquitous cup holders. Seats removed, and you've got a load space that's deeper and longer than the other two, on paper at least. But which will cope best with that package that looks small in the catalogue, but unfeasibly large when you went to collect it? First, the Fiat Muitipla.
Dad, you began down that gym at your pen. In it goes, tell you what.
And still, look at all the space that's still left over at the side. And
Beautiful.
you can still get 3 people in there.
Flat loading area as well.
Absolutely enormous.
Brilliant.
If that shuts, which it will, I'm sure. Perfect.
Fantastic.
Thumbs up for the Fiat Muitipla. The old PT Cruiser. First thing you notice about this is it has got a sill that you have to lift over. It's not
flat, is it?
Which is not flat. It doesn't actually fit. What do you reckon? Should we make it fit?
Yeah.
So if you do go and buy that nice Queen Anne desk, you might have to shave a leg off of it to get it in. But
if we get it in, mate, we're not going to get it out.
no, we're not.
It's
No.
absolutely stuck.
So you could do that and put a bungee. You could do a nice bungee with some stop, you know, I'm transporting signs on the back. Right, now the Nissan Tino is definitely the most rate of the 3. It has got quite a large boot area. However, first objection is these big seals. You've got to load stuff over the top.
No, not a hope. Not a hope.
Right.
It won't go.
Yeah, let's try it that way.
Now, hang on.
That's
Look,
a better way, though.
if you took all the space at the bottom.
Right, I reckon we can get it in. I reckon if it's flat pack furniture, it'll go in. There you go. So make sure you visit your flat pack store for the furniture for the Tino.
It's a great bit.
But the best one by far is definitely the Muitipla.
6 seats, big space, plus flat floor, the Muitipla breezes it. Silly shelf, deep space, but the narrow sill puts the hot rod in second. And the Tino has loads of space, but a very narrow opening. You best get your furniture delivered.
Right, it's time for the Driven 100, where we're going to score our 3 mini MPVs in 4 different categories. We're going to start with the Fiat Muitipla and drivability.
I love the driving position, I love the visibility, I love everything about this car. A good all-round drive, 17 points, and the PT Cruiser.
It does look fantastic from the outside, and, you know, I wanted to drive it, but I was just so disappointed.
It's dreadful.
I don't want to use this word, but it's rubbish.
You just did. It drives bad, handles bad, bad score, 13 points. So what about the Tino? In the braking test, brakes ever so sensitive, and it stopped far better than the other 2. And it was fairly competent on the road, so a middling 15. And on to desirability. First, the Muitipla.
It's very desirable to a lot of people, this car.
But it's not for everyone, so 17 points. Next, the Cruiser.
Retro, fun style looking, I reckon this car is ultimately desirable. My dad actually drove 20 miles to a car showroom just to go and sit in one, so he liked it.
Fair enough, Mike. The PT Cruiser gets 16. So now the Tino.
One thing about this car is that everything's kind of okay. It looks okay, it drives okay, everything about it's okay. It's just nothing special. Like yourself, Mike.
Not ordinary.
Oh, easy pet. An ordinary 15. On to practicality and the Muitipla.
It seats 6 and there's loads of space, so it gets 20 big uns. When the Cruiser's seats are out, there's also lots of storage, although the rear sill is a bit narrow, so it gets 19. The Almera's got cubby holes galore, but it's missing a flat loading space, so 18 points. And the final category, cost of ownership.
How much will it cost me to buy?
15,080 quid. Why? Why don't they just lose the 80 quid? And at only 45p a mile, excellent value, 17. What about the Cruiser? It costs a whopping 56.35p a mile. And it's the dearest of the 3 at 15,995 quid, so a lowly 15 points. The Tino is 15,800 quid, but only 41p a mile, a good 18.
So which of our mini MPVs gets a family-friendly thumbs up and which gets a thumbs down? Well, in third place is the expensive PT Cruiser with 63 points. Despite its lack of excitement, the Tino scores a competent 66 points. And this week's winner is the Fiat Muitipla with a massive 71 points.
Down here in sunny Brighton, the 6-seater Muitipla reigns supreme. It's full of character, it's a great drive, and it's ultimately practical. It's going to prove hard to beat, and that's why it's this week's winner with a fantastic score of 71. We'll see you next week.
On next week's show, turbo diesels. Don't laugh, our Driven 100 diesels have the kind of performance some petrol cars can only dream of. The new Renault Laguna takes on the new Volkswagen Passat. And our car of the year last year, Ford's new shape Mondeo.